At 11:47 p.m., I was staring at a cold pot of pasta and realizing my wife was nearly 3 hours late. Paige's book club never lasted past 10, yet both my calls had gone straight to voicemail. I didn't know it then, but by sunrise, I would uncover the first lie that would destroy our 6-year marriage. We'd been married for 6 years. 6 years of what I believed was a strong, honest marriage built on trust and open communication. Paige worked as a marketing executive for a growing tech startup, so long hours came with the job. I understood that. I'd always supported her, even when work emergencies meant eating alone or canceling our weekend plans. Still, something about that night felt wrong. A strange knot tightened in my stomach. I turned on the television to distract myself, but I couldn't focus. My eyes kept returning to my phone, hoping her name would appear on the screen. At midnight, I called her best friend, Abigail, who supposedly hosted the book club meetings. "Hey, Abigail. Sorry for calling this late. Is Paige still there?" She hesitated, and the silence lasted far too long. "Paige? No, she left around 8:30 and said she was going straight home. Is everything okay?" My stomach dropped. "Yeah, she probably stopped at the store or something. Thanks." I ended the call before she could question me further. With slightly shaking hands, I opened our shared banking app. There were no recent purchases. Then I checked Find My, which we'd enabled years ago for safety, but Paige's phone was offline. The next 2 hours moved painfully slowly. I paced through the living room, back and forth between the couch and the window. Every pair of headlights made my heart jump, then sink again when the car passed our house. At 2:14 a.m., my phone finally buzzed. Paige had texted me. "Don't worry. Staying with friends? Had too much wine and didn't want to drive. See you tomorrow. Love you." I should have felt relieved. Instead, a cold chill ran through me. Something wasn't right. Paige never referred to people as just friends. She always gave a name. She'd say, "I'm staying at Abigail's," or "I'm crashing at Mom's." Never simply friends. The whole message sounded wrong, too formal and distant. Even the "love you" felt added at the last second, like she was checking a box to make everything seem normal. I read the message again and again, trying to convince myself I was imagining things, but the feeling wouldn't leave me. Then I did something I'd never done before. In daylight, I would have called it an invasion of privacy and a betrayal of trust. Earlier that day, Paige had sent me a selfie from lunch. I still had it, so I opened its metadata. Using a photography app from work, I checked whether the backed-up message data contained a location. Phones usually removed that information, but automatic backups sometimes kept it. My blood turned cold when the location appeared. The message hadn't come from Abigail's suburban neighborhood or from any other friend's home. The backup showed it was sent from the Grandview Hotel downtown, an upscale boutique hotel known for privacy and luxury suites. I sat alone in the dark, my phone trembling in my hands. My wife wasn't staying with friends. She was in a hotel at 2 a.m, sending me comforting lies while she was God knew where, doing God knew what. An hour earlier, I would have called her immediately. I would have driven to the hotel and demanded answers, letting anger control every decision. But something inside me changed. Beneath the shock and pain, a cold, careful clarity took over. If Paige was doing what I suspected, I needed evidence. I had to learn the entire truth before making a move. Confronting her now would only give her time to invent a story and hide her tracks. So, I didn't call. I didn't drive to the Grandview Hotel. I stayed in the darkness and started making a plan. If my wife was cheating on me, she was about to discover I wasn't the trusting, passive idiot she seemed to believe I was. My revenge wouldn't be sudden or fueled by rage. It would be cold, deliberate, and completely devastating. The sun came up on what should have been a Saturday filled with panic and confrontation. Instead, I felt calm, almost unnaturally calm. I'd spent the rest of the night researching, planning, and preparing for whatever came next. Paige returned home at 9:37 a.m., looking nearly perfect, except for slightly smeared mascara. She carried her purse and still wore yesterday's navy dress, the one she claimed made her look professional for book club. "Hey, baby," she said as she walked into the kitchen, where I sat drinking coffee. She kissed my forehead as though nothing had happened. "Sorry about last night. We drank too much wine, and Abby insisted I stay over. My phone died, and I didn't have a charger." Every word was a lie, delivered with effortless confidence. I couldn't help wondering how many times she'd done this before. "No problem," I replied evenly. "I'm just happy you're safe. I got worried when you never came home." She smiled with obvious relief. "You're so sweet. I'm going to take a shower. Maybe we can get brunch afterward." "Sounds perfect." The moment I heard the shower running, I moved. Her purse was sitting on the counter. Inside, her phone showed 47% battery. It hadn't died at all. I grabbed my laptop and connected her phone with a cable I'd bought during my early morning research. I'd spent 3 hours studying data recovery and phone mirroring programs. Some legal tools were designed for parents supervising children or people backing up their devices. Within minutes, I'd installed software that could sync her messages and location history while giving me access to her photos and call records without alerting her. It felt like a violation. It was one, but so was what she had done to me. While the phone synced, I photographed the hotel keycard hidden inside a secret section of her wallet. Room 847 at the Grandview Hotel. I also discovered a receipt from the previous night. 2 glasses of champagne and room service. Prime rib for 2. It had been billed directly to the room, meaning somebody else had paid. The shower stopped. I quickly put everything back and returned to the kitchen table with my coffee. My heart hammered, but my expression remained blank. Brunch was torture. We went to our favorite cafe, the same place where I'd proposed 4 years earlier. Paige talked about book club and claimed they'd discussed a novel about a woman reinventing her life. The irony didn't escape me. "We should take a trip," she said, reaching across the table for my hand. "Maybe that beach resort we talked about? Work has been so stressful. We need some quality time together." I squeezed her hand and smiled. "That sounds great. Let's do it." Inside, I was screaming. How could she sit there holding my hand and discussing our future while carrying on whatever this was? For the next 3 days, I followed a carefully controlled routine. I went to my job at the architecture firm as usual, came home, cooked dinner, watched television with Paige, and even slept with her Tuesday night, all while carrying the truth inside me. Then, after she fell asleep each evening, I went into my home office and watched the information pour in. The monitoring software revealed everything. I could see her text conversations as they happened. One contact was saved under Nolan Client, but nothing about their messages was professional. "Can't wait to see you Thursday. Same place." "God, yesterday was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you." "He doesn't suspect anything. We're careful." Every message cut into me like a blade. Nolan. His name was Nolan. Using a shared photograph I found, I ran a reverse image search on his profile picture. His full name was Nolan Whitaker. He was a senior vice president at a venture capital firm, married, and the father of 2 children. His social media showed a perfect family and a perfect life, just like ours. But the strongest evidence came from Paige's location history. Every Tuesday and Thursday for the previous 3 months, her phone had appeared at the Grandview Hotel between 7 p.m. and midnight. Those were the exact nights she'd said she had late meetings or dinners with clients. 3 months. It had been happening for 3 months. I organized everything on an encrypted hard drive, screenshots of every message, photos of the hotel receipts I'd uncovered, GPS records showing her movements, and call logs proving she'd spent hour-long lunch breaks talking to Nolan. I even figured out their routine. Nolan booked the rooms through his company account. They met after work. She disabled location sharing and blamed it on her phone acting up. They stayed together for hours, then she came home, showered, and climbed into bed beside me as if nothing had happened. By Thursday night, I had all the proof I needed. Dates, Times, texts, receipts, and photos formed a complete record of her affair. Still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Paige's birthday was the following Saturday. For weeks, she'd been planning a dinner with her friends, parents, and sister. She'd reserved a private room at a fancy downtown restaurant and wanted to celebrate turning 32 in style. I intended to make it a birthday she would never forget. Friday morning began normally, but I'd chosen that day to settle the financial side of things. Paige saw me as a talented but passive architect who let her make most of our money decisions. She had overlooked one important fact. I had created every one of our accounts 6 years earlier. I took the day off and drove to the bank. Paige and I had built a comfortable nest egg over the years. Our joint savings held $87,000 from bonuses, gifts, and disciplined saving. Our investments were worth another $120,000, and we had substantial equity in the house, which was in both our names. While reviewing the statements, I found something else. 6 months earlier, Paige had opened a credit card without telling me. The bills went to her work email, so I requested copies. The charges spoke for themselves. There was lingerie from boutiques I'd never known her to visit, costly dinners at restaurants we'd never shared, and a weekend at a wine country bed and breakfast, when she'd claimed to be attending a mandatory work retreat. She had spent more than $15,000 on the affair, convinced I would never notice, because the card was separate. My next stop was my lawyer's office. I called first and said I needed to understand my options. Everett Langford had handled the closing on our house, and I'd always trusted him. "Colin, I have to ask," Everett said after I showed him everything. "Are you completely sure? Marriage counseling might—" "She has been cheating for at least 3 months. Probably longer," I cut in. "I have documented proof of an ongoing affair. I don't want counseling. I want to protect myself." Everett slowly nodded. "All right, then here's what you need to know." For the next hour, he explained Texas divorce law. Because Texas was a community property state, anything acquired during the marriage would generally be divided equally, unless we could prove she had wasted marital assets. He said the credit card spending might qualify because she had used marital money to fund an affair. If you can prove those expenses were connected to the affair, you could receive a larger share of the assets, Everett told me. "But Colin, are you sure you want to go nuclear? This could turn ugly." I pictured Paige holding my hand at brunch, smiling while she lied, and betraying me for 3 months while I remained faithful and trusting. "She went nuclear first," I said quietly. "I'm only responding in proportion." By Friday evening, everything was ready. My finances were protected, and I documented the credit card charges linking them to the affair. I had Grandview hotel receipts, restaurant charges that matched dates when her location placed her at Nolan's apartment building, and lingerie purchases made one day before hotel visits. I had also taken one more step. I hired a private investigator. Vaughn and Associates had a strong reputation for discretion and thorough work. For $2,500, they had spent 3 days following Paige and Nolan, recording everything in photos and video. Curtis Vaughn, the investigator and a former cop, sent me the files Friday night. The pictures were devastating. They showed Paige and Nolan meeting in the hotel lobby, his hand on her lower back, the two of them kissing in the elevator, then entering room 847 together. Nolan left alone at 11 p.m. Paige came out 30 minutes later, fixing her clothes. The video was even worse. Curtis had used a parabolic microphone near the hotel bar where they met before heading upstairs. Every word came through clearly. "When are you going to tell him?" Nolan asked. Paige gave a bitter laugh. "Tell Colin, please. He's comfortable. Why would I destroy my life when I can keep both? He's stable and dependable." "Boring," Nolan added. "I was going to say safe. You're the excitement. He's the security. I'm not giving up either one." I watched the video 3 times, feeling more numb with every replay. This wasn't some impulsive affair. Paige had planned it. She had decided I was worth keeping for stability, while Nolan gave her the excitement she wanted. That night, she returned from another supposed late meeting and found me on the couch watching a movie. "Hey, honey, Tomorrow's the big day, she said, glowing with excitement. I can't believe everyone is coming to my party. It's going to be perfect. It will definitely be memorable, I replied. She kissed my cheek. I'm going to bed. Big day tomorrow. Love you. Love you too, I answered automatically. After she went upstairs, I opened my laptop again. All week I had been building a slideshow titled, "The Nights You Said You Were Working." It laid out the affair in a visual timeline, screenshots of their messages, the investigators' photos, maps of her location history, and clips from the crushing audio. The next evening during Paige's birthday dinner, her parents, sister, friends, and everyone else she'd deceived would finally see who she truly was. My finger paused above the save button. This was the moment I couldn't undo. Once I followed through, our marriage was finished, and the life we'd built would collapse. Then I heard her words again. He's stable, dependable, boring. He's the security. I saved the slideshow and copied it onto a USB drive. People say revenge is best served cold. Mine was about to be served at the right temperature. Saturday morning felt strangely normal. Paige floated around the house in her bathrobe, glowing with excitement. She confirmed the reservation with the restaurant while texting her guests. 23 people confirmed, she announced, kissing me while I cooked breakfast. This is going to be amazing. Thank you for being so supportive, babe. Anything for you? I said, meaning it in a way she couldn't understand yet. She vanished into the bedroom to begin the hours-long process of getting ready. I heard the hairdryer, smelled her expensive perfume, and listened as she sang with the music. She had no clue that within a few hours all that happiness would shatter. I used the morning to finish my preparations. The day before, I had called the restaurant and spoken with the manager, Wesley. A generous tip secured his cooperation. So, you want to show a slideshow during dinner? He asked. That's common for birthday parties. The private room already has a projector. Perfect. I'll bring it on a drive. Can we set everything up before the guests arrive? Absolutely. We'll handle it. I had made one more call to Nolan Whitaker's wife, Claire. That was the hardest choice, but I knew she deserved the truth. Her life was built on lies, too. Mrs. Whitaker, you don't know me, but I have information about your husband that you need to see. Could you meet me for coffee this morning? At first, she was guarded and suspicious. Still, something in my voice must have convinced her. 90 minutes later, I sat across from Claire Whitaker inside a Starbucks 20 miles from home. She was a beautiful, polished blonde, probably close to 40. She studied me with concern and suspicion. I'll get straight to it, I said, sliding an envelope across the table. Your husband is having an affair with my wife. It's been going on for at least 3 months, and the proof is inside. Her face lost all color. What? No, Nolan wouldn't. Please look at the evidence before deciding that. Her hands shook as she opened the envelope. Inside were printed messages, the investigators' photos, and copies of hotel receipts. I watched her expression crumble as she examined each item, and denial gave way to reality. I'm truly sorry, I said quietly. I struggled with whether to tell you, but you deserve the truth. My wife is having her birthday dinner tonight at Caruso's downtown. It starts at 7 in the private dining room. I plan to expose the affair there. I wanted you to know so you could decide what to do. She looked up at me. Tears ran down her cheeks, but steel had appeared in her eyes. What time did you say? 7 o'clock. Caruso's downtown. She nodded and carefully returned the photos to the envelope. Thank you for telling me. I need to decide what I'm going to do. Then we parted, two strangers connected by betrayal. By 6 p.m., I was in my best suit, the USB drive tucked in my pocket. Paige looked stunning in a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. We reached Caruso's at 6:30 to welcome everyone. The private dining room was beautiful, with exposed brick, soft lighting, and an elegant table set for 23. At the far end stood the projector screen and sound system for the birthday tribute I'd mentioned to the restaurant. Wesley, the manager, caught my eye and nodded. Everything was ready. The guests arrived. Paige's parents looked proud, followed by her friend Abigail and her husband, co-workers, and her college roommate who had flown from Seattle. Everyone smiled, laughed, hugged Paige, and wished her a happy birthday. I played the devoted husband, shaking hands and accepting compliments about what a wonderful couple we were. Inside, my heart pounded like a war drum. By 7:15, everyone was seated and drinks had been ordered. The mood was warm and festive. Paige glowed at the head of the table, with her mother on one side and her best friend on the other. Then the private room door opened again. Claire Whitaker walked in, and she wasn't alone. Nolan was with her, or rather, she was dragging him by the arm. Her face was frozen with cold fury. The room fell silent as everyone turned toward the unexpected guests. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Claire said. Her voice shook, but every word was clear. "I think there's something everyone here needs to know." Paige went pale. She looked at Nolan, then at me. I saw the exact second she understood. "Colin." She started to rise. "Sit down, Paige," I said calmly. "Everyone, please listen. I know this is unexpected, but I have something to share. I planned to wait until after dinner, but since our surprise guests are here, we'll do it now." I stepped to the front and nodded to Wesley. The lights dimmed and the screen came alive. "I made a video tribute for Paige's birthday," I told the room. "It's called The Nights You Said You Were Working." I pressed play. The slideshow opened with a wedding photo of Paige and me, happy and in love. Then it switched to a screenshot of a message from 3 months earlier. "Can't wait to see you tonight. The usual place." Gasps moved around the table. Paige's mother made a quiet sound of distress. The presentation continued, slow and devastating. It showed increasingly explicit messages between Paige and Nolan, photos of them entering the hotel together, and location maps placing Paige's phone at the Grandview Hotel every Tuesday and Thursday. Then came credit card records with charges for lingerie, hotel rooms, and romantic dinners highlighted. Finally, the audio began. Paige's voice filled the room. Crystal clear. "Tell Colin, please, he's comfortable. Why would I ruin my life when I can have both? He's stable and reliable." Then Nolan's voice. "Boring." Paige replied, "I was going to say safe. You're the excitement." "He's the security. I'm not giving up either one." The last slide was simple. "Happy birthday, Paige. I want a divorce." The silence afterward was crushing. All 23 guests sat frozen, their faces filled with shock, horror, and pity. Paige stood with tears pouring down her cheeks, opening and closing her mouth without making a sound. Her father spoke first, disappointment weighing down his voice. "Paige, how could you?" "Daddy, it's not, he's twisting everything." She pointed at me in desperation. "Colin, please, we can discuss this privately." "We're beyond private talks," I said calmly. "You had 3 months to speak to me, 3 months to tell me the truth. Instead, you lied every day, spent our money on hotels, and called me boring to your boyfriend." Nolan tried to leave, but Claire stepped into his path. "Oh no," she said loudly. "You're staying to watch this. You're going to see what you destroyed." "Claire, let me explain," Nolan began. "Explain?" Her laugh could have cut glass. "Explain why you claimed you were at business conferences while sleeping with her. Explain why you used our family's money for hotel rooms." "Go ahead, Nolan. I'd love to hear it." Paige's friend Abigail rose with anger burning across her face. "Paige, I covered for you. You said you were at book club at my house, and I believed you. When Colin called that night, I lied to him. How could you drag me into this?" "Abby, please." "No." Abigail's voice cracked. "I looked him in the eye and lied for you. Do you understand how that makes me feel?" Paige's mother cried quietly. Her college roommate had already collected her things and left. Other guests reached for their phones, probably messaging friends about the disaster unfolding before them. One of Paige's co-workers, Marissa, stood and faced the room. "I just want to say that everyone at the office knew something was happening between Paige and Nolan. We suspected it, but we had no proof. Now I wish I'd spoken up. She turned to me. I'm sorry, Colin. It isn't your fault, I said. The manager saw the situation spiraling and stepped forward. Maybe everyone should take a moment. No, I said gently. Actually, I'm finished. I've said everything I came to say. I looked at Paige, really looked at her, and found only emptiness where my love had once been. My lawyer will contact you Monday morning. Don't return to the house. Your belongings will be packed and placed in storage. The locks are being changed tonight. Colin, please. Paige sobbed as mascara streaked down her face. I made a mistake. I love you. We can still fix this. You don't love me, I said quietly. You love having security while you fool around. I'm not your safety net. I'm a person, and I deserve better. I headed for the door. As I passed him, Paige's father grabbed my arm. I'm sorry, son, he said, his eyes wet. You deserved better than what my daughter did to you. Thank you, sir. Near the exit, Claire Whitaker approached me. Thank you for telling me. I'm filing for divorce, too, and I'll make sure everyone at Nolan's firm knows exactly why. I nodded. Good luck. I stepped out of Caruso's into the cool night air. Behind me came shouting, crying, and chaos. I kept walking, climbed into my car, and drove away from the ruins of my marriage. 3 months later, the divorce became final on a Tuesday. Paige resisted at first, then demanded more money, and finally accepted the inevitable. Because I had documented the credit card spending as dissipation of marital assets, I received a larger share of our savings. We sold the house and divided the proceeds. Paige also lost her position at the tech startup. Officially, it wasn't because of the affair with Nolan. The scandal had simply made her job impossible to keep. The last I heard, Paige had moved to another state for a fresh start. Nolan and Claire had a much uglier divorce. She received primary custody of their children and most of their property. Nolan was demoted after the affair became public at his firm. Apparently, sleeping with a client's employee while using company resources wasn't a smart career move. I moved into a downtown loft with exposed brick and huge windows. I buried myself in work and earned a promotion to senior architect. I began exercising, took up photography, and even started dating again, though I moved slowly. People asked whether I regretted exposing Paige so publicly or wished I'd handled it another way. Honestly, some nights I wondered if I'd gone too far and let anger turn into cruelty. Then I remembered sitting alone in our dark living room at 2 a.m., reading her message about staying with friends while she was actually in a hotel with another man. I remembered hearing her call me boring and describe me like a useful appliance instead of her husband. Then I remembered something my father once told me. Self-respect isn't about always being nice. It's about knowing your value and refusing to settle for less. I didn't ruin Paige's life for revenge. I refused to remain her comfortable backup while she chased excitement elsewhere. I would not be the safe option for someone who didn't value me. The birthday slideshow wasn't about humiliation. It was about exposing the truth. Paige had built her life on lies, and I simply switched on the lights. Did it hurt? God, yes. Some days I still missed the woman I believed I'd married, even though I now knew that version of her had never existed. But I learned something important. Sometimes the strongest choice is walking away with your dignity intact. Revenge isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's refusing to let someone diminish you. On the day our divorce became final, Paige sent me a text with only 2 words. I'm sorry. I read it, felt nothing, and deleted it without replying. Some apologies arrived too late. Some bridges cannot be rebuilt once they burn. And sometimes the best revenge is building a good life without the person who took you for granted. I stood by my loft windows, watching the city lights below. Then I poured a glass of whiskey and raised it to new beginnings. The past was behind me, and for the first time in months, my future looked bright.